What sort of questions do you guys have? Because I know you had some coming in here. Yes?
I have one question. You're talking about the whole stack writing favorite scene, and you like have an idea and you build on it. I understand that in my writing, I'll get an idea and I'll build on it. Like, I'll work on it, like, how did this happen? What events led up to this? Why did this happen? Whereas, but my problem is once I've explored it all in my mind, I lose interest. And so when I want to go and write it down, the interest is just gone, and I just can't bring myself to write it all down. Have you ever dealt with that, or?
Yes. Get a voice recorder and bring it with you everywhere. Make it either an app on your phone or attach it like a phone charm or something like that. But bring it with you. When you get an idea in the car or in the shower, actually speak out your idea. It's in its raw form there. Then on Windows, on your Word program, there is a voice dictation setup already there. It's already there. That's what that stupid little freaking microphone thing is down at the bottom. You click on that, you do a little thing, and it listens to you, and it gets about 85% of your words. Keep using it. It'll get up to about 95% accuracy. If you do something stupid, like invent months of the year, you'll probably have to spell those out or type them in directly. But that microphone allows you voice to text option. So you are dictating into a Word document. Then you've only been through it once or twice, because you can play your voice recording into the text, in the voice to text. So it dictates that. You've explored it once or twice. That gives you plenty of time to get into the meat of the story while you're actually writing it. So you don't have to worry about losing interest. That is the best thing to do for people who just go so fast. And that's what it sounds like you do. Have you ever noticed that Stephen King movies that are based on novels blow goats for beer money? Yeah? But his short stories rock. And his books, if they are made into a mini-series, rock. That's because he can really get a point across in a short story. And that's the way you want to go. So, a friend of mine is a comic book writer and artist. One of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're writing for a comic book is if you put more than 32 characters in a block where a panel is drawn, you've overtaken the panel with dialogue or text and left no room for the art. So he goes through every sentence he writes and then sees how much he can minimalize that. Does it really need to have that adverb? Does it really need to have that adjective? He ran quickly. How else was he supposed to run? He ran on his hands. Is that our alternative? Because that's an entirely different image and you should go ahead and use that. But if he ran quickly, as opposed to, like a zombie, whatever. Get rid of it, minimalize it, and a lot of times you'll see that evolves your scene and makes it crisper. Also, make sure when you are doing your writing that you are showing the reader, not telling the reader. This is vital. Yes?
Something I found helpful with that when you're trying to show the reader is if you can draw, or you like to draw, you actually draw what you see in your head out so you can convey it into words. That always helps me.
Each person handles that differently. My company is actually launching a new book at the end of March. It is by a new author. We met her last March. So in the course of a year, we have taken her book, edited it, worked it. It is ready to go. We're getting covers. It's going to be going to print here in January so that it is ready to go at the end of March. She's going to have a launch party at the con that she's a con head for, which is awesome. She had a real problem with dialogue. At one point, she told us that this character went over and hid the combination to the lock on her bike and took the lock off and left. And I'm going, Rhonda, is there a reason why the reader's not allowed to know the combination of your bike lock? Are you afraid they're going to steal your bike? Because, I mean, if that's the readership you're pandering to, is people who go into your head and steal things, this might not be a really good market for you to go to. But in so doing, it showed her that she could have illustrated through the combination of the lock alone insight into that character. Once I pointed that out, she developed that, because now she could see the bike lock. And the combination that she used was actually the lottery numbers that her grandfather used to win the lottery, 2 weeks before the apocalypse. Ironic, anyway. Do what you need to do to see the scene, but definitely show the reader. Don't tell us they had a conversation. Have a conversation. Sometimes that conversation is superfluous. If you do not have anything arise from that conversation, please reevaluate it and try to figure out why you put it in there. You may end up just taking it out, and that's okay. Anyone else?
I have a question. When you say show, don't tell, what about, like, in your case, what would some examples be for, like, internal feelings or thoughts? What is the best way to show that in writing?
Who wants a preview of the audiobook? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Use the microphone if you need to.
I feel special now. She muffled the child's coughs in the wool blanket she grabbed to protect them from the smoke and slipped away to the river. Her assailants would sift through the ashes, looking for proof of their deaths, but not before nightfall, and probably not before morning. She needed to be gone before then. She saw in the twilight a ship anchored at the mouth of the river, waiting in the deeper waters off the delta. The small village taught her understanding of the seafaring folk, and she hoped her lessons would save her and her infant now.
Thanks. So we could have said she took the baby to the ship. But you don't know why, you don't know how, and you don't know her motivation. But by that, you get the opportunity to explore what's going through her mind. So now you know why she is rushing to a ship that she knows nothing about. There's a ship. She didn't say, there's so-and-so's ship. She knows nothing about this ship. She's just hoping that her knowledge of seafaring people will help her save her child. Now, what else? What did you learn from that as a reader or a listener? Was anyone actually listening?
A fragment of a book.
Anyone else?
I kind of like how it wasn't like, it didn't say, oh, she needed to get away, she thought, or anything. It just said the emotion without like saying, this is what she's doing, this is, I don't know, to explain that.
Oh, she wasn't thinking in third person.
Yeah, exactly. So every thought that goes through her mind, she thought, just express that she needs to go through it and you understand that's how she's feeling, without saying she felt this way.
What's the setting?
Outside of it.
Airport.
Okay. What's going on? What?
A house, something just burned down.
Okay. Who is going through the ashes? Friend or foe? Now, would you have been able to get that if you just said she ran with the baby to the ship? Would you have learned any of that? That's how you do something like that. So you take it, you find out who, what, when, where, why. But make sure that you know what the purposes of them going there. And that's your best way to do that, showing, not telling. I can give other examples, but that would be really, really arrogant. Anyone else? Yes?
Okay, so when you're writing in narrative tense, how do you avoid the redundant use of, so-and-so said, like when you're having your characters talk,
The way I do it, because I don't like that. I can't stand that so-and-so said, so-and-so else said, so-and-so else said. So what I do is, right now, everybody look at him.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know he's the one talking when he talks?
His voice.
It makes a certain noise. He's sitting there fidgeting with his sword. His hand is in his chin. He's interested in what we're discussing, mainly because he just asked a question and he would like the answer. Or the boobs, one of the two. But the point is, he as a human being is doing something. So how I do it is I say, Jeff had an idea. If I'm going to write a scene and I don't want to write he said, she said stuff, how do I do that without saying he said, she said? Next line. The teacher thought about this. I think the best way to do it is describe what the people are doing. That way you know who's talking, because you just prefaced it by, this is what this person's doing. Yeah.
So like would be like using the person's expression at the time also be a good way of doing that. Like,
That's exactly what I do. And here's a really, really important factor that I've heard in other audiobooks, and I made sure was not the case now. Your book is going to be put in audiobook format if you're smart. If you get picked up by a big publishing house, you don't get a choice on that. So you've got a person reading your stuff, and they say, how much is that banana? He asked. Yeah, we know he asked it because of the little banana. It went up at the end. You know, that's the universal sign for question mark here. Okay? We don't need to have that. So cut it out for the audiobook, because there's going to be a person actually reading it out loud. And it will be obvious that that's what they said. They're also going to use different voices. So this is a girl. This is a boy. It's obvious she said or he said. You don't need to repeat that. Don't use replied, answered, commented. We don't mean the same thing.
Yeah, that's one comment of my. It's great. My
Who's that guy?
comment with my fan fiction, and just have them do like little physical deals. And I found the deal is really visualize the conversation. And if your character somehow just leans back in his chair put that in. He puts his nice lip, takes a sip of his drink, and you know, I mean, if you have to visualize the conversation, you'll see when you see all these little actions. So you don't need said, comment, just the vocal verbs.
Another way to do it is to think of it as a radio broadcast. If you're having a conversation, think of it as a radio broadcast. They can't see it. There are no words for them to see. So you have to convey through dialogue who's talking and what's going on in the room. So if this person had ink spill on their outfit, you can't say, they spilled ink on their outfit. They say, oh my God, crap, I got ink all over everything. It's like, oh God, do you need a rag? No, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and let it stay in the carpet, you goober. There was another, yes.
It's just a comment. Another excellent example of telling the difference between speakers. P.G. Wodehouse, as an older writer, probably remember him from Jeeves and Wooster, that sort of thing. He went on for pages and pages of dialogue without telling you who was talking, but his characters spoke so differently that you knew who was talking when.
Sometimes you have to be careful when you're writing out accents or specific tics, verbal tics. If a person who is an idiot driver is talking to a drunk and you put a hic every couple of sentences or a couple of words, that's a really good way to dictate that. One of the examples that I have is the main character of one of the books is talking to a guy with a really, really heavy accent. It's like that movie Snatch with Brad Pitt. And you're like, I know he said words because his mouth was moving and he was doing that throat thing. And I'll bet they mean something to him. Or the scene in 13th Warrior called Semantics, where they're sitting around the fire and he discovers that he can start understanding the words. And so eventually he speaks in their language. As the person goes on and learns about these other people, you and the character and the reader can learn to understand that person better so they don't talk in a weird accent. By the time the guy's telling a story in the pub, you know what he's saying.